Efficient in the field, coming in hot on the dozer today on the ranch, guys. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Civil War 2.0. That's right. If you're watching this channel, you probably already know that it's a pretty good possibility. We're going to see a second Civil War kick off here in the next few months. It might take longer than that. It might happen sooner than that. It might even take 4 years, the next election cycle, to get there. We're going to see. We're on the countdown, guys. We're on the countdown. If you look at the average lifespan of governments, they just don't last that long. And we're actually due. And you take that historical data and you mix it with everything that's been going on in this country, especially over the last 4 years, because everything's just completely accelerated. Like the downward spiral, man, is just going faster and faster and faster. You can really see that this is where we're headed. It's been a real big concern to me, dudes, really. I know I've mentioned in another video that I had hoped this wouldn't happen until this guy was an old man. It just doesn't look like I'm going to be that lucky, though. I mean, it could kick off before I hit 50. And at least I still have a little bit of youth in me. And hopefully that'll be enough to get my family through the ordeal. I know a lot of you guys are thinking about it the same way that I am. And really, if we take the numerous possible versions of shit hit the fan that we're staring dead in the face right now, and we look at them, I really feel like Civil War 2.0 and economic collapse are the two most likely things that we're going to be facing. So let's have a conversation about it on the channel today, guys. It's always a conversation here. Make sure you're hitting it up in the comments. How do you think it's going to go down? What do you think it's going to look like? Light it up down below. I really don't feel like we need to recap all of the things that are occurring and have occurred over the last 3.5 years in this country that are definitely pointing us towards civil war. We'll just say this. At least the current administration seems to be pushing for it. And they're not the only ones that were working towards this inevitable end, guys. The federal government has been stockpiling high-quality ammunition that they can't use overseas for decades now. They're arming agencies like the Department of Education. You have to think about that. Why does the Department of Education need to be armed? Why does the Department of Agriculture need to be armed? Why does the federal government need billions of rounds of high-quality hollow point ammunition? And I think it's because they know that it always comes to an end. If you look at government and the way it operates, like what is government good at? It's good at control. Eventually, it controls more and more and more and more and more, and especially in a place like America where people love their freedom. Well, maybe not everybody here loves their freedom, but a large portion of the population does. You reach a point where tyrannical government collides with the freedom lovers. That's what happens, guys. And if we take a look at history, what you're going to see is that a freedom-loving populace never rounds up the communists by a hole and puts bullets in the back of their head. That doesn't happen. Why? Because freedom-loving people value other people's freedoms just as much as they value their own. What we do see, though, is we see governments get hijacked by socialists, fascists, or communists and take those freedom-loving people and line them up by a hole and put a bullet in the back of their heads. So the trajectory of the United States today, and we could say much the same for Canada and much the same for Australia, because I know a lot of you guys are viewers there as well. The trajectory shows that that's where we're headed. We're headed towards a purge. Now, luckily, in America, we still have a shitload of guns throughout the populace, which is going to give these freedom-loving Americans a chance. Let me share for a minute how I think this is going to play out. It's hard to know exactly what the catalyst is going to be. It could be more cheating in this next election and them not certifying the election and not putting Trump in office, because we have literally elected officials like Congressman Jamie Raskin, who's a Democrat, saying that their plan is to let Republicans vote for Trump, and then they're not going to certify the election and get ready for civil war, put body coverage on everybody that needs it, people like him. That's literally their plan right now. And it seems to be their plan regardless of whether or not this appeals court with these 5 judges throws out the 34 felony convictions that they found Trump guilty of. Dudes, I'm a libertarian. I'm not even a Trump lover, but you know what? It's obvious that the whole thing was rigged. And if you don't think it was rigged, I'm just going to say it, man. You're not paying attention. And you're probably extremely bipartisan. This dude ain't bipartisan. I'm not, man. I'm like right in the middle. I'm looking at everything. And so if I can see that it was rigged, you should be able to too, unless you got those leftist blinders on. You know what I'm saying? So at this point in time, it appears that the left intends to hijack not only the election, but the government. Who knows if all the votes are even going to get counted up? I think they probably will be, and they're just not going to certify it, but who knows for sure. Only God knows what's going to happen, dudes. My guess, though, would be that they're not going to certify the election and that a lot of red states might possibly throw fits. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a dividing line between people, not so much based on their geography as you will see it on their ideology. But oftentimes, people with different ideology are based in different geographical locations, right? Like we can take California, for example, and take a look at that. The highly populated areas are very, very much blue, but the rural areas are very, very much red. So if something that appeared to be a civil war or it was really going that direction super, super fast, I think that you could really see Northern California, for example, split off from the rest of California and join maybe Nevada, Southern Oregon, Idaho, which in effect would basically be the great state of Jefferson, something that's been in the works for a long time. Real quick on the topic of secession, guys, because I argue with my brother-in-law about it all the time. Texas comes up here and there in our conversations, and I'm like, yeah, they can secede. And he's like, no, they can't. It's illegal. Well, of course it's illegal. It's illegal under federal law. And secession, historically, it's just not legal, guys. It's like, y'all were running the show. We're not happy with the way you're doing it. We're leaving. We're starting our own country. Do something about it. That's what secession is. So secession is not actually limited to Texas because they put it in their state constitution. Secession is just a historical thing that has occurred over and over and over again for a really long time. Secession is probably just about as old as humans are. So yeah, I think you could really see that. I think you could see Northern California secede from the rest of the state. And I think you can see this in other states as well. Other places with big, big blue cities and large rural areas that are mostly Republican. I was out here working on the ranch yesterday, and this thought popped into my mind because I was thinking about Civil War 2.0. And the thought was this: what does the left produce that I cannot live without? And pimps, do you know what the answer is? Nothing. The left produces nothing that I can't live without. Let's take a look at it real quick. What do they actually produce? Like, what have they actually made? Well, they've made Hollywood. Hollywood used to be good, but it's taken a complete nosedive over the past decade and maybe a little bit beyond that. When my wife and I watch movies now, we're looking for movies that were like 2010 and prior. Hollywood's been so infected by woke-ass shit and nepotism over the last 14 years, it's practically worthless. The left has created video games. Because a lot of the big video game developers, they're living in Silicon Valley, and a lot of them are leftists. The left has made a lot of operating systems and has done a lot of IT work on things that definitely have sped business up. They've made business better. A lot of the apps that we use on our cell phones and our computers, just a lot of the software in general was created by the left. iTunes created by the left. Apple created by the left. Microsoft is really on the left. You guys get the idea. The point, though, is that if all those things went away, if everything that I own that was created by the left went away right now, I'm fine. On the flip side, the right creates things that the left cannot live without. Hardworking, freedom-loving Americans grow all of the food. Hardworking, freedom-loving Americans pump all of the oil out of the ground. Hardworking, freedom-loving Americans build and own almost all of the guns. They truck the food to these giant blue cities. The engineers that run the trains are these freedom-loving, hardworking Americans. The captains of the ships, the fishermen, the loggers, basically anyone that works in industry, like real industry, actually producing things with your hands. It is largely done by the people on the right. Firefighters are mostly people way over on the right. The veterans are largely on the right. It's funny, my kid brother was trying to argue with me that most people in the military are Democrats. I was like, bro, you weren't even in the military, man. You don't know shit about it. Don't talk about shit you know nothing about. Because I was in the military, and I'll tell you guys, it was easily 80% conservative. 80% people on the right. So what does the radical left really have going for them if it comes to a civil war? And you know what they have, guys? They have the federal government on their side right now. But if we look at the federal government as a fighting force, how many of them can actually wield a gun? I'm willing to bet that it's probably 1 out of 10. Like 1 out of 10 are actual shooters and the rest is support personnel. You can arm support personnel if you had to, but it's not going to work out the way you wanted it to. And so in a day and age when our president literally threatens people on the right, saying that they can't win a civil war without F-16s, it turns out that the extreme far left doesn't have dick to win a conflict like this. They have nothing, guys. And so I hope that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. And here's the other thing I want to do. I want to propose a plan. If it actually goes this way and it turns into a civil war, or it's about to turn into a civil war, here's what I want all of you hardworking, freedom-loving Americans to do. Stop delivering goods to the big blue cities. Just stop. Those of y'all that have watched the channel for a long time, you know that I had an amazing stepfather that taught me a lot of things. And one of the things he taught me was that you want to have FU money. And what this effectively is it's 3 to 6 months worth of wages. This not only puts you in a position where if your job starts to suck or you get canned for some reason, you have time to look for something else without defaulting on your loans. But given that Civil War 2.0 is coming down the pipe, it puts you in a situation where you can stop driving trucks to those big blue cities for 3 months and you can still pay your bills. That's how this has to get shut down, guys. If we are literally on the cusp of a second civil war, just reminding the people on the extreme left that they cannot survive without the right, but the right can survive without them, it will stop all this shit before a single shot gets fired. That's where I'm at with it, guys. I think that would really work. I think it will remind the so-called powers that be that the actual power lies in the heartland of America. The people that do the hard work every day, the people that grow their food and ship them their gas, because everything fails without you. So that's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that these freedom-loving, hardworking Americans become a unified front. And if it looks like this second civil war is kicking off, stop shipping shit to the big blue cities. They will be on their knees in weeks. So spread the word, pimps. Spread the word. Let all your friends and family know that work in these industries that this is how it has to go down if this thing starts kicking off, guys. Okay, I'm going to wrap the video right there. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, make sure you either share it or you deliver the message by word of mouth. Check out my Patreon link in the description, guys. I'll see you all in the next video.